Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and continue.
Beauty, joy, pleasure, all of that. Think about it. The three great questions in philosophy. What is real? Metaphysics. Nowadays a fancy name is there, ontology. What's real? Second, how do we know anything? Epistemology. And third, what is good, what is beautiful? Earlier there were many subjects, ethics, then aesthetics and so on. Now they have all combined under axiology, which is basically meaning or purpose, a fulfillment. And the answer to these three, I was just thinking, Sat, Chit, Ananda. What is real? Sat. And the solution to all of metaphysics is the answer from Vedanta is Sat. The solution to all epistemology, the answer from Vedanta is Chit, consciousness, which makes knowledge possible. And the solution to the questions of axiology, ethics and aesthetics is Ananda. What is the point of it all? How will I reach complete fulfillment? Well, that is Ananda. Oh, how do I get it? It's you. You are reflected in every little fulfillment in your life. And that those little fulfillments, when they are frustrated, that is what is pain. Short answer, you are Ananda. The more you explore that I amness, you will find whatever you are seeking in the world outside is actually there. That's what it is. We go around the world with a begging bowl. Give us a little happiness, little recognition, little praise, little success. That's what we are trying to do. But we don't need it. Whatever the world can give us back is like the mirror reflecting your face. We want as many reflections as possible. That's being rich, being popular, so whatever way we seek happiness in the world, is just more and more reflections we want. But we don't need any of those reflections. Those reflections need you. Without you, no reflection is possible. Those reflections are the worldly or even religious joys, and you are Ananda itself.
Buddhist.
Oops. Interesting. So, what I read from this is how I am interpreting this. And this is kind of how I live my life so far. So far. That, again, it does go back to that one moment, the singularity in my life. in world religions in college, about life is suffering. Ever since that moment, I changed my perspective on how I live life. Again, it took a long time for it to develop because that is the crucial moment for me. But the process took forever because I had no teacher, nothing to really teach me, no one to teach me really. I kind of had to learn on my own a little bit, and so it took a long time, a very long time. Slowly but surely, I was learning. But nowhere near this fast, though, at all. But I will say this: the way I live my life is contentment. So I don't say bliss, but I say contentment, and I enjoy the pleasures of life, the reflections, the many reflections. I enjoy it, but none of them. I wouldn't say none of them. Most of them, I do not suffer. I guess that's the way I live my life. Is that live in contentment, not happiness, not sadness, and then enjoy the happiness of life in this mirrored existence, this glass mirror existence. But do not let that affect you, as in a negative manner. Let it affect you as much as possible with all the happiness and joy. But when it comes to sorrow and sadness, don't let it touch you. Easier said than done for sure, but this is something that took me a long time to learn. By just the phrase life is suffering makes me realize that if that is so, I do not want to suffer. How do I not suffer? For me, it's understanding. I don't know if that's Jnana Yoga though, but it's not necessarily separating myself from reality. It is to a degree that by understanding something, I do not suffer from it anymore. But not because it's not me, but because what is the reasoning for the suffering? So it's close to Jnana, I guess, but not quite it. Because I'm not necessarily separating myself, but to some degree I am, by saying that I do not need to suffer this because of this. So again, that's the way I've lived my life, and it took a while, a long process to get to that point. And I don't really suffer too much, I think, necessarily. I'm sure I did, but perhaps maybe below average in terms of suffering in the world, I guess. Maybe just because of where I grew up and how I lived, the situations in my life, the way I've lived. I've realized, I've understood a lot of things, so I kind of had a head start. Anyways, let's continue.
Saying the same thing in saying that it doesn't have, like, I'm not super familiar, but in saying that it's not a positive or negative connotation to
Yes,
bliss, it's just
yes.
everywhere, so it might as well be.
The norm?
A misunderstanding of Buddhism would be the negative, that they are saying nothing is there.
Right.
A misunderstanding of Vedanta would be positive. They are saying something is there. So both something and nothing, they depend upon that reality itself. Just as the presence of a reflection and the absence of the reflection make no difference to you, the original face. But you make all of that possible. Yeah.
Thank you.
The presence of the reflection does not mean you are that. And the absence of the reflection does not mean you are gone. No.
I think I was about to repeat that. As like, just because you see nothing doesn't mean you don't exist, and just because you see your reflection doesn't mean Maya is real. doesn't make it real. Doesn't make what you see real, because a reflection is and isn't real. It's real in the fact that it's a reflection of something, but the reality is that it's not the thing that is not the thing that's being reflected. It is a reflection, but not the actual thing.
Right.
Thank you.
The lady there, she was asking a question. And we'll end with you, yeah. Tell us your name and ask the question.
Yeah, my name is Payal. So one thing that creates this separate feeling is that this body and this mind appears in my consciousness, and other bodies and other minds don't appear in my consciousness.
No, they do. Through this body and mind, all of them, we're all here, right?
But
Hello.
I am not experiencing their sensory world, their sensory
Yes,
perception.
you're not experiencing their
Oh, sorry.
essence. You are experiencing through this body mind.
Yeah, so I was wondering how to address this separateness, that other sensory
Yes,
worlds are not
correct.
appearing in my consciousness.
Correct.
Good question. Sorry, I didn't mean to pause it right there. It was very good. It's very much so. I was going to say, yeah. This is something I've said also in the very beginning, where, I forgot. It's a while back where it's like I am not able to see through their minds. I'm not able to hear their minds, see through their minds, touch their minds, smell their minds, lick, taste their minds. Ooh. But you get what I'm saying. I'm not able to experience through their perspective, but I am able to see them, hear them, touch them, smell them, taste them. Wow, that's weird. But you get my point.
So what you're asking is that I am consciousness and everything is in me true, but I am experiencing everything through one body mind. And I see everything from this perspective, and my knowledge is also very limited in this mind, whatever is there in this mind. I may be the one consciousness in all bodies and mind, but I don't experience myself that way. When I say I don't experience myself that way, who is that I? That's Payal. Already you are channeled through this Payal body mind personality. Now if you are saying that how can I experience myself as all other beings, then answer is directly that you are. As consciousness you are shining through all beings. But see, this question is asked by the mind.
Okay.
The Payal's mind. I know the contents of my own mind, and I can have the sensory experiences through my own body. Why can't I know the contents of everybody's mind and have sensory experience through everybody's body?
Okay, real quick there. Interesting. Whenever it said so and so, I am Pyle. I can't see through the minds, and I was thinking it's like I. Usually, when you think about the I, you think of Atman, but I think this is the little I, the ego I, not the big I.
Is that possible at all? It's possible for God. What is called Virat or Hiranyagarbha, the cosmic mind, who's connected to all of us and sees and experiences through all of us. Ishvara, for Bhagavan, not for individual jiva. Another way of explaining this is ocean and wave. The wave can never be the ocean. All waves are part of the ocean. Ocean is like Ishvara, and waves are like individual beings. But what is Advaita saying? Advaita is saying both wave and ocean depend on water. You are water. Now, as water, you are this wave, that wave, everything, and the entire ocean also. Also, one little clarification. All these examples are limited. The moment I say water, what will happen in our minds is, okay, I'm water, I understand the difference between wave, ocean, and water, but waves have little water, and ocean has lots of water. So I'm still little. I'm only a little bit of water. No, there's no little or lots in Advaita. It's not part and whole relationship. If you have a part and whole relationship, it's called Vishishta Advaita. It is absolute identity. You are all of it. And even all is concession to language. Think about it as wave, ocean. Why the wave cannot be the ocean? Because as long as I'm limited in the wave form, I will know only myself. But all Advaita wants you to realize is that you are water itself. The wave form will come and go. All waves will arise and pass away. But water doesn't pass away. Which is more powerful, wave or ocean? Which is greater? You're scared. Ocean, yes, ocean. But which is greater, wave, ocean, or water? Water. Why? Because if you take the water out of the ocean, even ocean won't exist. But water can exist. Water can exist as water vapor. It can exist as water in your glass. Ocean depends on water. Wave depends on water. But water doesn't depend on ocean or water. So that is pure consciousness, Satchidananda. That appears as Ishvara or Bhagavan and as all of us as Jivas. Advaita never says that Jiva is Bhagavan, that ordinary person is God. No. Never. That's wrong. But what Advaita wants to say is that Jiva is also Brahman and Ishvara or Bhagavan is also Brahman. There you are one.
I wonder if this would be a fair example for that one as well. Even in a dream itself, you don't see yourself as other people necessarily. You're always ever in one person, right? Even if that one person sometimes is a different person. I don't know if anyone has a dream like that, where I do remember distinctly one time I was dreaming that I was in someone else's body, and I looked down or I looked in the mirror or something. I was like, this is not me. This is not my body. Why am I in this body? And I know this person though, of course. I don't think I can dream of someone I don't know. But that happens very rarely. But generally speaking, in even the dream, even though you are everything, your mind is everything in there, you are generally speaking only ever in either in your body or you have like the God perspective where you're kind of observing what's going on. I've had those dreams too, but most of my dreams is where I'm in my body in the dream. There's been a few times where I was in someone else's body as a passenger, kind of. I think it's been a while since I had that dream where I was someone else's body. I can't remember. There may have been some moments where I was like following, and other moments where I'm like the mind controlling the body, or at least that's what it felt like. The mind controlling the body, but I'm not the body. I'm the mind in the body. Maybe that's the consciousness through the mind. Maybe I don't know. It's just what I remember is I was the mind in the body, and I was telling the body what to do. And then there's a few perspectives where you had this like a few dreams where it's the kind of the top-down aspect where I'm observing what's going on in the world. So again, in the example there, I think would be fair enough to say that even in your dreams, you're not everything. You're just the one person in that dream, and you're talking to people, but you don't know what they're thinking or what they're going to say or what they're going to do.
All right, we'll end with you. Come. Yes. I think you've been raising your hand for a long time, so we'll end with you. All right, come.
Maharaj, I'm Shri. So consciousness is neither born nor dies, and the Jnani internalizes this clearly, and with that knowledge, the Jnani is transcending suffering.
Yes.
So I have to ask about grief, because we are not our feelings, but grief feels very organic, and grief is blindsiding. Arjuna was blindsided by grief for his son.
Yes.
Thakur at least exhibits grief, who is the truth. So that makes one wonder, here we are trying to transcend grief, but I don't know, Arjuna couldn't transcend grief. Tried.
Krishna could, Ramakrishna could. So what it does is this. Once you realize you are this ever-present I amness, the experience of the world doesn't cease. So if I like a cookie and I eat it and it tastes nice, then I realize I am consciousness. That's a fact. And then through the mind and the tongue, I'm experiencing the sweetness of the cookie. Will the cookie now no longer taste sweet because I am consciousness? No. The world will be experienced exactly as it is. Pleasure will be experienced exactly as it is. But you know that you are not this one individual being chasing that particular pleasure. Both are made possible because you are consciousness. Grief, pain will be exactly as it is. Sri Ramakrishna's example of dying, he's dying of cancer, and yet he says, I am, Hari Maharaj said, I see that you're in great bliss. And Sri Ramakrishna's answer was that, the rascal has found me out. Now, is he not feeling the pain of the cancerous sore? He is. Advaita is not escapism. Advaita is transcending the pain. So, grief. Now, would an enlightened person feel grief? Yes. When Swami Vivekananda heard that his sister had committed suicide, he wept. And then somebody said, Swami, you're weeping. He said, I don't want to be a hard-hearted sannyasi like that. Can you feel the grief? Can you feel suffering? He felt more than most of us. He felt the sufferings of humanity. He has the greatest heart. In fact, there's a song, Jaya Jaya Ramakrishna Bhuvana Mangala. So it was composed by Swami Premeshanandaji. And there you find the names of Sri Ramakrishna, Ma Sharada, Vivekananda, and all the direct disciples and some of the householder disciples also. And there's an epithet for each of them. Just one word for each of them. For Vivekananda, he wrote, Swami Premeshanandaji, Jaya Vivekananda Parama Dayala. Glory to Vivekananda, victory to Vivekananda, who is most compassionate. So, Swami told me that he asked Swami Premeshananda, we think of Vivekananda as this tremendous intellect, great yogi, great dynamic worker. Why did you write most compassionate? And the Swami said, as you go through life, you'll understand. The greatest thing about Vivekananda was his heart. His intellect, his dynamism, his eloquence, his strength, his, all of that is great, but the greatest thing was his heart. Now, he experienced that suffering. But then what? How is he different from the rest of us? He is able to transcend. Like Sri Ramakrishna, he knows the body, he knows the pain of the body, but he also knows as Atman, as pure consciousness, is beyond this pain. It's that Atman, that consciousness itself which makes pain possible. But consciousness itself has no pain in itself. From that perspective, there's no pain. So grief, will one experience grief? Yes. As much as anybody else. And yet, can one transcend it? Yes. Transcending, that's the word transcending. Transcending being there and yet not of it. Being in the boat, but you're not, the boat is in water, but water is not in the boat. So, you're in the midst of the world, experiencing the world, including its pains. Everything as everybody else experiences. But you see a higher reality beyond that, which is you yourself. There it's all right.
I can see here, thinking throughout my entirety of my mind, what someone would say who doesn't understand this, which I still, and to some degree, don't, of course. But then what would be the point of all of this if we still suffer? I mean, and I remember in the very beginning of doing this, it's like, so if you do this, then you will no longer suffer in this world, you'll no longer have heartbreak or anything like that. And then as I got through roughly the middle until now, I was still a little bit confused. It's like, okay, you're enlightened, but yet you still suffer. Where's the disconnect there? Where's the disconnect between you suffering, suffering, and you being enlightened? So, and I've heard it many times, but I guess the answer wasn't good enough yet, I suppose. Where then, well, me saying that, I don't think I'm enlightened because I still suffer in this world. It's like, am I enlightened and just not know it? Well, technically speaking, we're all supposed to be enlightened, but we just don't know it. But I just answered my question there. Anyways, but I've always thought that you don't suffer, and that's the reason why of how I live my life. Like I said a little bit earlier, how I suffer less in life because I understand things. I understand things. It's understanding why things are the way they are, why things happen the way they are. I'm not saying everything I understand, but most of the things in my life I do understand, so I don't suffer them. So I don't. Well, I just don't suffer those things. Not everything, but just certain things. A lot of the things, actually. There are a few things that I do suffer, of course. And I still do get emotional doing, watching other people react to certain movies and stuff. I've been kind of on the bench on that. Even though I know it's fake, the movie, but I still get the emotions from it. Again, it's not suffering bad. Good emotion. But yes, how do you suffer but you're enlightened? That was always a kind of I couldn't think of anything. Why do you still suffer? I get that the body still exists. I've always thought that you don't suffer when you become enlightened. It's not to say that you're cold-hearted, but perhaps maybe you recognize your emotion, but you do not let it overcome you. Don't let it, I want to say show, but don't let it overcome you to the point that it shows, I guess, because you have control over it, and that it does not have control over you. I think that's how I thought to explain it. I never explained it, but in my own head, how I thought to explain it. And in Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda has always been the kind of the weird ones. Like he was very emotional. He always showed he was crying whenever sadness was occurring, when someone was suffering, and all that's like that's always kind of a weird thing. It's like, well, I feel emotion too, and I still get hurt. I'm not perfect by any means. I can't understand everything. There's gonna be things that I can't understand sometimes, and they're gonna get me. They're gonna affect me. And it's like, well, that's the same thing with Swami Vivekananda. So if he's doing it, why am I doing it? Or I can't remember what the question was. Like, if he's doing it, then maybe I'm not doing it wrong. I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah, that's what happens. That's transcending.
Thank you.
Yes. Bill, do you still remember your question? Okay. Do you have a question? Yeah. We'll end with that.
Amritamshu, you had mentioned that when you pursuing the path of bhakti, you'll come into problems when you also try and relate it to Advaita. But when I think of Ramakrishna or other avatars, I see embodiments of all those paths. And I think you had just said that, that the individual self is not unlimited consciousness, but we actually gather our faith and our learning from these great examples.
Yes.
So my question is there not a synthesis of these
Right.
paths?
You're right. Absolutely right. You see Sri Ramakrishna, Shankaracharya and others who are great jnanis, but deep devotion. Even Ramana Maharshi, you see sometimes deep devotion to Arunachal and all. So there is no conflict between jnana and bhakti and yoga and karma in reality. What I was mentioning is a very particular problem. What I was saying is that particular problem means it is understood among Advaitins, non-dualists, that on the path of jnana, on the path of devotion, for beginners, for most of us, bhakti is very useful. With the foundation of bhakti, one is, if you are in the path of bhakti, for a beginner again, jnana need not be, you don't have to dabble in jnana. Bhakti is enough by itself. Bhakti will take you towards God realization. And then you will see later on what everybody is doing is also what I am doing. That's fine. Sometimes the jnana approach at the beginning can be damaging to bhakti. That's why in the bhakti schools, you will find a warning against the jnana approach. If I'm starting on faith, and I'm also trying to question it at the very beginning, it won't work. You'll damage your bhakti. Sri Ramakrishna was very careful about his young disciples. He used to use a word, bhav nashto korte nahi. Bhava means you're building up a spiritual attitude towards God. Don't damage it. Don't destroy it at the beginning. He used to say, put a fence around it. Once he says the sapling grows into a big, banyan tree, you can tie an elephant to it also. No problem. It'll be fine. So initially at the stage of beginning, when most of us are there, it's good to cultivate one particular attitude. However, in our lineage, we cultivate, as you said, all of them. On the basis of jnana, you can cultivate yoga and bhakti and karma. Sri Ramakrishna would say that tie the knowledge of Advaita to your, he would say the typical thing you see in India, women tying keys to the hem of their cloth, bunch of keys they tie. He would say tie the knowledge of Advaita to the hem of your cloth and then do whatever else you like. Whatever else you like means if you want to be a bhakta, be a bhakta. If you want to be a dynamic worker for the welfare of the world, be a karma yogi. If you want to retreat into meditation and be centered in the Atman, nakinchidapi chintayet, Krishna says that center your mind in your nature as pure consciousness and then don't think anymore. You can do that also.
Okay, real quick there. I was gonna pause it. So basically, when he says yogi, he's also meaning Raja yoga. What's the original word? Is it Raja? Or is it yogi or yoga? I don't know. Of course, you had karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, but then yogi yoga. I was trying to figure out. It's like I had to think about all the 4 ones that I remember. And the one that he was missing was Raja Yoga, meditation. So I'm just kind of curious, what's the original word for it? Is it Raja originally, or Yogi, or is it just for the different philosophies to call it something a little bit different? Karma seems to be very universal. Bhakti seems very universal. Jnana has some different spelling, but pronounced the same. Not Nanya, I believe, by Lakhani. Nanya, Gyanya. But I think the G was silent, and I'm pronouncing the G. So Nanya is because G-A. Gyana. Something, anyways. But first time, no. I think Chinmayananda, Swami Chinmayananda, I think he calls Raja Yoga something different. I know it was one of the higher ups of his tier system that he had. He had the karma, bhakti, and jnana. Then he had something above it, and I think one above that. I think that's Raja. Raja go to Atma or Brahman, I think.
All of that is possible. But yeah, you're right. In truth, in reality, there is no conflict between them. Very good. Let me do a peace chant. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Rupanamastu.
Okay. Alright. So, the honey of non-duality. Again, I did read some of the comments again, and the person I was talking about the AI and stuff, I did read your second comment. It did come up on email. Mind you, I read it on the emails, and if I get the emails, I generally do read it. It's very difficult for me to find a little bit of time to go to the comment section and read that. So I'm hoping I hope I get everyone's emails, honestly, or everyone's comments in the emails, because it's a lot easier for me to check there. It's quite difficult to understand about the AI explanation, and it's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's just how we understand words and how we understand things. Without me knowing how you understand certain words, I can't understand it the same way that you do. Just to make a comment on that real quick. I'm sorry I can't remember the name, but you know who you are. But in this one, was there anything new? I don't think so. But I guess it goes back to the question of he calls it yogi, I believe. Y-O-G-I, maybe? Is that the original word for Raja Yoga, or is Raja the original? Let me know in the comments. But anyways, that's the end of this. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.